Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone who joined, but also who will watch that recording later. My name is Markus Gottschalk, and I'm Managing Director at Change Leadership and Partners. Let me start with Leaders Talk. And people approach me and say, Markus, why do you do that? Why do you do Leaders Talks? Why do you do it monthly? And I think the answer is very simple. Because I have the pleasure, Gabriela, to talk to wonderful, exciting people, sharing knowledge and contribute to knowledge, which is, I think, a wonderful thing to do. So thank you very much, Gabriela, for being here today. I will introduce you in a second. Or briefly, let me say quickly something about Change Leadership and Partners. We are a change in leadership consultancy, a small one based very close to London, and we offer leadership development programs and leadership development solutions, but we also do change leadership. So please have a look at our website later, but I think you're signed up anyhow because you found us. Gabriela, today I welcome you, Head of Global People Development, that is what it says here, at the Plansee Group in Austria. And today's topic is how your company challenged leaders, patterns and behaviors with the help of a business simulation. And I also don't know how you did that. I'm very excited. So, can you tell us who you are, Gabriela, and who is Plansee?
Of course, Markus. So first of all, thanks a lot for having me today. A little bit about my personal background. Actually, I have rejoined the Plansee Group in September 2022 after a long time in academia. So between my first phase and my second phase, I was actually a professor at a University of Applied Sciences in Austria. I was very much focused on HR and organizational development topics. And I did my dissertation late in life on family firm succession, and also then worked as a management consultant and coach. In my first phase, actually with the Plansee Group, that was for 11 years, I also was responsible for HR development topics. However, at that time, very much focused still on the Austrian headquarters. And then when I came back, I actually also in my time as a professor was looking for a really great change project. That was due to the reason that Plansee at that time also went or started a major transition. And so I'm happy to tell you a little bit more also about our company. Probably only very few of you have come across Plansee. This is also because we are a hidden champion in a very remote area, the headquarters in Austria, close to the castle, the Cinderella's castle of Neuschwanstein. We were actually founded more than 100 years ago in 1921. And still today, we produce the strongest metals in the world from tungsten and molybdenum. So very rare and special metals. Very briefly, what are we producing? So at the beginning, that was mainly light bulbs. But today we are suppliers for different industries and branches, including consumer electronics, automotive industry, mechanical engineering, construction industry, energy technology, medical technology, and so on and so forth. Semiconductors, aerospace industry. Important for you, there's a bit of Plansee in every smartphone, actually. We are around the globe, 11,000 employees, privately owned, very interesting organization. So that's for my introduction.
Wonderful. So now I'm curious what you do with all the engineers and technicians when it comes to behavior change, and what was the transition? You mentioned a transition as well, and I assume at least that this transition was also the need then for behavior change in your leaders.
Exactly. Yeah, so in February 2022, our ownership structure actually has changed with the aim at that time to create a strong group with synergy effects. Yeah, so we actually aim to map the entire value chain around tungsten and molybdenum. So what we did 2 years ago was to take over the majority of the Luxembourg company Ceratizid. Yeah, and so now we are one Plansee Group, meaning that we also create a lot of synergies. And we are growing into a matrix structure. Yeah, so it's very much now about creating conditions for further growth and really working better together in this new organization as one group. And you asked what we did in order, also to address a mental and a behavioral change. The starting point at the very beginning was that we also defined competencies, strategic competencies that will in the future be very relevant for us on the one hand side to be able to cope with an increasingly unstable and dynamic environment, and on the other side to foster this kind of better together or collaboration and co-creation process.
All right, how interesting. And these competencies, we never talked about if you have something to share, but if you're not, what kind of competencies are we talking about?
So I think I have to get these presenter rights, then I can actually also share the competencies with you. At the moment, I'm not able to share. So altogether, these are 9 competencies, and we cluster them in 4 major topics. For example, we drive our business with passion, we are global citizens, we inspire each other, and so on. And we have now subgroups for leaders and also other competencies that are relevant for all employees, no matter if they are leaders or not. So now I have got the sharing rights, and I can also share this slide with you. Now you should be able to see it. Yeah. Or it's still connecting somehow.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, okay. So this is the overview, and these leadership competencies were actually developed together with board members first, and then also with a lot of colleagues from different regions, departments, functions, volunteering to also participate in the creation of these competencies.
What are these different colors? Or first of all, let me say I like that it is very clean. I can see the with four in a row. But of course, I'm curious, what are the different rows?
Yeah, so you see these 4 columns, and each column is like a core competence. Yeah, so we drive our business with passion, for example. So the orange ones, they actually depict or describe the headline for this competence. And then you have a lighter gray, which is overall competencies. So these are then relevant subcategories relevant for all employees and workers, for example, being eager to learn or promoting sustainability, collaborating as one group. So this is really important for all of us. And then there are the leadership competencies. They are also linked to the core in orange. However, this is more something for people that really have an impact in a leading role. Yeah. And then you see the baseline, which is in white, the functional competencies. And these are, of course, competencies that are relevant for different jobs. Yeah, so you usually find them in competence matrices or in job profiles. Yeah, so they are more operational or function specific.
Right. So in today's simulation and approach you wanted to share with us, so we focus more on the darker leadership competencies.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So that was very important to us when we started also bringing this competency model into the organization to also look for ambassadors. So that was the starting point. So who in our company could actually also support the Plansee Group and also they are in their field of impact, really be a role model for these different competencies. And that was then also linked to the question, what kind of learning format or approach might help us to also drive the competencies and to raise the awareness also for these competencies. And this was then when we started with the simulation that we are talking about today. Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful. But before you go on, and I have millions of questions. Yeah. But when you say ambassadors and you selected people who can role model these competencies, how did you select those?
Actually, that was a very hands-on approach. So we went to the board members and we introduced our idea to start a new format, a new also learning process, including a simulation. And we then asked them to nominate candidates that could actually be ambassadors or role models. Yeah, so we did not define a lot of criteria, and this is probably also one of the things that we learned, that it would have been helpful even to have more criteria. So what was then really fantastic that we ended up with quite a heterogeneous group. Yeah, so it was not just limited to one hierarchical levels, for example, to senior managers, but it was really a very mixed group of people. So that was the starting point, looking for ambassadors. Yeah,
Wow.
People with open minds and also social competencies and skills.
How many people did you choose?
So we actually conducted 3 cohorts, or we did the simulation with three cohorts, so roughly 60 people.
Awesome. Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so what happened then?
What happened? So we started actually to design this learning journey, and we said, okay, we are looking for certain also we had defined certain objectives. So we wanted to have the learning journey, first of all, on an individual level, including the strategic competencies, making it possible for the participants to be aware of their existing mental models, their patterns in behavior, to reflect also on them. But then also to see on the next level, okay, what does that mean if I'm in a team, and what does that tell us about our organization as a whole? Yeah. So we really wanted to set up a cross-hierarchical learning project. Yeah. And so then, and this is on the right-hand side, we said, if we set up a simulation, it would be great if we have another learning sphere for observers. So it was not just the 20 people in one round being in the simulation, but also then observers coming from our organization, trying really then very hard to reflect on what they could see. Yeah, and what does that tell about the different patterns, about the competencies. So we also had a learning stream for this observer group. Yeah, and then we set up a process actually. Yeah, so we thought, okay, how can this also be embedded in something bigger, not just a simulation, but how can we prepare people, and how can we also then, after the simulation, take care of the individual and the collective learning. And we actually had a very nice approach, I think. So I probably should rather show you this here, the learning process.
But only before you go on, to recap, that I got that right, which I found unique already. So you have observers and you trained observers. So I can imagine, and there I saw the headline that there were also some executive board members as observers. So I think that was a training for themselves, because they're also, if you have an observer, you have to know what you're looking out for. So you basically... That's like a Trojan horse, so you train your observers in the same topic. and probably
Yes.
even deeper.
And this was really so unique about this project. And at the same time, it also caused a lot of critical feedback, because I was also part of this observer team, and there was really, I think, for the first time, did board members take their time for 3 days and really devoted all of their attention to the social processes, to the individuals and to the social processes. And they really got very deeply involved with the application of these competencies. They also got reflection rounds, yeah, so to see, okay, what are my observation patterns, yeah, so why am I observing the things that I'm observing? So really the second tier learning also happened. And I found this very exceptional, and I highly appreciated also that these board members took the time and devoted themselves to this project in this way, in such a way.
So, but when people are observed, so I think that participants, I mean, it sounds almost like an assessment center if people are observed. So did they get, grades, or was there any kind of distinguish between different leaders later?
Yeah, so that was actually the tricky part of our concept. We always said it's not an assessment. However, as soon as people realize that they are observed and the observers are board members, of course, they had the feeling somehow this is like an assessment. We also changed something. So at the beginning, so every participant received a report after the simulation, a very detailed report, including a lot of qualitative observations and recommendations, but also including a figure. Yeah, so because we had a scale, and the result was also a figure. And we realized in the course of our project that providing such a figure had a tremendous effect, yeah, much more than all the qualitative elements of this learning journey. And although the reports were not shared with HR and they were really just for individual use, somehow people did not understand that, or maybe did even not really believe that maybe there has been some kind of hidden communication about these figures. Yeah, and it was not. It was really confidential, but we understood then later that in a very technical environment, probably you have to be very sensitive about providing reports with figures. Yeah, so we had a perfect intention and we really lived to it. However, it was perceived and interpreted in a different way.
Coming back to the executive board, and I just had a question here in the chat. So how did you convince the executive board to participate? Have they been excited about that, or have they been very critical and skeptical? Or how did you convince executive board member to participate, taking their time, learning about observation, learning about their own, their own patterns even? I find it very, very deep.
We did actually not have to convince them. They simply said yes. That was also amazing. Yeah? So they really took this as an opportunity to learn more about these social processes, to probably also get an idea, okay, what is necessary in the future if we want to grow into a VUCA world and if we want to become better together. So they were more or less volunteering to do that. So it was not difficult. And I would like to point out that our holding board member, actually, he participated in all 3 rounds. So altogether, he spent 9 days of his working time in the simulation, and he highly appreciated it. And we had very valuable discussions about our observations during the process and also at the end.
Okay, so one learning I take away: don't give people a 4.5 or a 4.8. That's not good. That doesn't go down well. But but I'm also intrigued. You always mention a simulation. I still don't know what a simulation is or how the simulation looked like.
Yeah. I can tell you a little bit more, although here it's again just a buzzword. It is important to mention that before the simulation, people also did a self-assessment. So they actually evaluated their own behavior according to these competencies that I shared. And in the simulation, they were working in 4 teams, and they built something we called a high-performance learning organization, meaning that they really had to develop products, they had to manage difficult tasks, forming their own sub-teams, their own organization, so to speak, to also reflect on their individual core processes, their task core processes, so how to actually then do the product planning, so more the functional side, and also the social core processes. So they got many tasks in different rounds, and then they did presentations in between. In these presentations, the audience, so the other participants, they also were then in the role of the potential customers, and the simulation trainer or facilitator, he was also in the role of a potential customer and or manager. So yeah, there were always these rounds in between for reflection, for presentation, and for alignment.
So but it was an in-classroom, so 3 days in classroom simulation. So there were different tasks and they formed different groups. So it was easy to observe.
Yes. Exactly. So the observers went then from one team to the next every 25 minutes and got an impression. I mean, it's nothing more than that. Yeah. So because in these 25 minutes, something happens. Some people are active, others are more thoughtful. And we also could observe the presentations and what happened, so to speak, in the plenum. And yeah, that was it. It was in class, and it was really a very intense and I think, high speed kind of, VUCA project for them, because also of the topic. You mentioned we have a lot of engineers, technicians, so people from technical backgrounds, and for them it was really difficult to also deal with all of these new terms and with the task as itself. So I think they were really working hard for 3 days, also until late at night.
So, also because of time, can we jump to the end, or can we just pass the program? So what was the result? What did the participants take out of it, or even the observer take out of that? And did something change in the organization? I know it's always difficult to measure and to see if really behaviors changed, but maybe you have some examples, or maybe something happened.
Yes, I can share 2 or 3 things. So first of all, we did individual feedback talks with each and every participant. So the direct supervisor and myself, we had 1 session. Plus, they had also individual coaching sessions with one of the facilitators. So for the individual learning journey or process, we provided actually 2 follow-up sessions. Some people actually, they were very reflective, and they had a lot of very concrete approaches, what they were going to adapt or change in their leadership role or in their everyday environment. Yeah. So sometimes this included also further coaching. Sometimes this included a training on the personal impact. Sometimes team building. So that was one stream. Yeah. So we really had a lot of follow-up, then smaller learning initiatives, with individuals. The second thing I would like to mention, and this is very special here, what you see here, it's called Network Day. So these are the red signs, a kickoff, and then network days. We started something also very special, a network between the 3 cohorts. Yeah. So, and we asked people we invited them to join this network, and we had a kickoff in March, and roughly 40 people actually followed our invitation, and they are now working on one of these competencies. So they could select one. They selected we collaborate as one group, and they are self-organized. So for the holding board member, it was really very important that we set up such an initiative, a network, and that it is also autonomous. So not like a classical project, but now in smaller sparring teams, they work again on an individual level, and also they support each other, how to bring this kind of competence more in their field of impact. They work now together, and we meet again in September. Yeah, so we have the first employee resource group, or however you call that, or network, which has come out of the simulation. So I think that's really cool. That's a nice success, or an important success from my perspective.
And it also shows, I mean, that there was 75% of people joined of their target group. I think that's a big success. So they're still committing time, and they're still working on different competencies and projects.
Yep.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Would you, maybe my last question, and then I let you go. Would you, I mean, first of all, are you cascading that down? Is that now something you would like to do also with more mid-level, or at least in a different form, where you can use the senior leader and the senior leader's insight?
Yes, we are just working on the version 2.0 of this simulation. So this will actually have 5 days, not just 3 days, because we also learned that it's good to have a little bit more time for transfer. Yeah, so how to transfer this experience and learning into one's own working life. There will not be board members anymore, but there will be participants. So people who already participated in the lab in the first 3 rounds, they will now become observers, but in a different way, not sitting outside, but also being somehow involved in the simulation, and at the same time observing social processes on a meta level. So there will be also individual feedback, but no reports, no figures anymore. Yeah, we are working on a first version, and the target group that I intend to have in this format is middle managers, or talents that are on their way to a middle management position.
Wonderful. That sounds like a success. Or was it a success, Gabriela?
That depends on whom you ask, because of course, if you learn out of comfort zone, this sometimes is also then in panic zone for some people. You never ever know in advance, and so you also have to take into consideration that feedback is very heterogeneous. Yeah, so of course, for some people that was not the appropriate learning environment, but it was for many others. Yeah, and therefore I think it's good to think, how can we in people development also unfreeze certain patterns, taking into account that it doesn't please everybody.
No, it's certainly not. Thank you very much, Gabriela, for sharing your journey, your leadership journey. I think that was really insightful, and it was very different. I think it was different to normal leadership development programs. It was more high pressure, I would say, but maybe also high pressure needed to shape but you are in high pressure metal, so you know how pressure. Yes. So that's all good. So they're all tungsten now. Good. Okay. Perfect.
Thank you very much also for the nice conversation, Marcus. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, and maybe thank you to all participants who joined today or later or listen to that recording. If you are a business professional and you would like to share and to be part of this interview, please approach us. You can do that via our website. Be welcome. And also, of course, leadership development is what we do. That's also why we have Gabriela here. So please approach us, or if you have questions to Gabriela, you can also do that directly or contact us. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye. Bye, everyone.